All right, this is biological effects review. You guys have a review assignment that goes along with this video, so go ahead and open that up on Teams. You can answer the questions as we go through this. Again, it's just a review assignment to help you prepare for the test that's coming up on Monday. As we go through this, hopefully you'll be able to answer most of the questions and do well on the test. So remember, there are 3 time frames in which biological damage is done. We have those time frames. For each one of these, you actually need to know the time with those. So when we look at the time frames for your biological effects, we're going to look at that and not only know what happens at each one, but the time. So physical is the ionization. That's when the actual atom itself gets impacted by the radiation and an electron is removed. And so this guy right here becomes an ion. Okay, and so that happens really, really fast. So we know that that happens at 10 to the negative 12 seconds. So really quick. Then the chemical phase is when those ions interact and cause chemical reactions. So reactions take place that actually do the damage themselves, and so that takes place at 10 to the negative 7 seconds. And the biological damage is what actually the result of all of this, and that happens when the cell divides. Okay, so when the cell tries to replicate itself, so when the cell divides. So those are the 3 time frames. Just make sure you remember these times, 10 to the negative 12 and 10 to the negative second, and what actually happens at each one of these. So possible effects to a cell. When a cell is irradiated, there are several possible effects that take place here. You could have the death of the cell, which is the least common. You could have no effect, which is actually the most common. And then you could have DNA damage. DNA damage can be repaired, and so sometimes there would be no ill effect from DNA damage, but sometimes those can cause non-fatal mutations, which lead to cancers. Cells that are the most susceptible to radiation, well, because when the biological effect takes place is when the cell divides, we would say these are rapidly dividing cells. So the rapidly dividing cells are the ones that are most susceptible to radiation. Things like digestion, skin cells, blood, things like that. We also learned that there's several different syndromes that take place when someone is given a large whole body dose, and so these are acute radiation syndromes. And so the prodromal is a general insult, and that general insult takes place above 1,000 rads. So we're going to say 1,000 plus, right? The hematopoietic is between 300 and 800. And so that's a loss of white blood cells. So loss of white and red blood cells. And so that has a 30-day period. So after 30 days, they would start to regenerate. Gastrointestinal is 800 plus. And that is a digestion. Causes digestive issues. Nausea, diarrhea, vomiting. And then central nervous system is 5,000 plus, and it results in death. Now, anything over 300 is going to be the baseline for a lethal dose, so all of these could actually cause death. Radiation dose below 5 rads, typically they do nothing. But some scientists believe that they could be helpful. So they could do nothing, but they also might actually help you. Remember that most of the data that we have that we use to determine risk comes from atomic bomb survivors. So atomic bomb survivors. And it's above 300 rads. Right? Why is risk so hard to determine? Well, it's so hard to determine because there are so many factors that we have to take into account to determine cancer risk or radiation risk. For a study, too many people would be needed, and nobody's going to volunteer. And in the accidents that we use to determine risk, there's no specific dose data. In other words, we have no idea how much radiation they actually got. So that's kind of a crash course in the information that you need to know for your test. Again, there is a review, a worksheet that has you answer some of these questions. I've given you most of those answers up to this point, so you should be able to just put those answers into your worksheet and submit it. Again, the test will be Monday. It'll be open all day. It closes at 11:59 on Monday, and it will be posted to Teams. So study hard and best of luck.